Good evening and welcome to All for United for your weekly dose of United chitter chatter. And we're going to get stuck into Ruben Amorim's first game in charge of United. And what a good panel we've got to do it. Matt Morgan, how are we?
Yeah, not so bad. Nice to be back on again, another midweek show and a nice game to look forward to on Sunday.
Oh, yes. Ben, how about you, buddy? How's it going?
Good, yeah. Excited to get some Premier League action back after international. So,
yeah, international breaks are a nightmare, aren't they? Daz, how are we? How's it going, buddy?
All good, yeah. Excited to get football back, proper football.
Oh yes, yeah. England's just doesn't cut it, does it? It's like just watching constant friendlies, isn't it, England? But yeah, I mean, Amorim ball is a couple of days away, and I think we need to get into it. I think we'll get into the game in a minute, but I want to talk about what we've seen of the training, what we expect. Obviously, the big interview came out that he was saying there's going to be an idea, there's going to be an identity. So, Matt, what did you make of the training? Like, obviously, the pictures have come out, and we've had loads of stuff come out from the club. What have you made of it?
I think from the outside, obviously, within the club, they'll not have a better idea. Obviously, the impact he's had straight away. Obviously, he's not actually been in charge of the game yet, so we can't judge him as fans yet until that happens. But I think if you look from the outside in, I think everything's looking quite positive. There's quite a lot of good things coming out. Players putting posts up saying how good the sessions are. Even Rashford, Casemiro, players like that, and you've never really seen that sort of thing before after training. So yeah, things are looking good. People are saying that within the club he's come in and he's got a bit of an aura about him. People are comparing him to like a younger Jose Mourinho, which is encouraging. But yeah, I think the true test will be when he gets into the actual games and start getting the results. That's when we can truly make a judgment.
Yeah, I mean, a young Jose Mourinho would take that all day long, wouldn't we? Yeah. Ben, what have you made of it?
Good. Yeah, mate. So far, so good. He's done everything you'd expect him to do in terms of on camera, and I think United have pushed it just to enough level where it gets you excited for the games, but we're not kind of getting 20-30-minute videos. We're just getting little snippets of him, seeing a bit of his character, and seeing him in some nice clothes swanning around the place. So it's good, yeah.
Yeah, they got all the right pictures out, didn't they? They got all the right quotes out. But one of the quotes he has said, Daz, he said that on Sunday we'll see an idea. He hasn't had loads of times to implement what he wants. But what sort of identity are you expecting to see from United on Sunday, given a few days with Amorim?
I think he's going to go straight in with a 3-4-3 system and try and make it work. I mean, there's a lot of rumours that Man United don't have the players to play that system, but I actually think they do, and I think he knows that they do. I think everyone's just been so negative about Man United and the players, but actually, when you look at some of these players, Dalot was made to be an attacking wing back, but we know he can defend. I know Luke Shaw's probably not going to feature, but again, Luke Shaw's an attacking fullback, but again, we know he can defend. So we know we've got this team. I mean, there was always that conversation, wasn't there? Where does Mason Mount and Bruno both fit in this team together? Well, this system gets them both in that team. Obviously, I think the squad selection, although I think it will be very familiar to what we've potentially seen or to what people would predict, I think there is going to be a couple of big names on the bench, and I think it is going to ruffle some feathers amongst the team. But I think he's got to play natural players in natural positions and then grow from there. So for me, I'm not wanting to see a Garnacho in that attacking midfielder role. I'm not wanting to see that. I want to see, his attack. He's got two fit attacking midfielders. No reason he can't play them. Again, with the two central midfielders. I just don't want him experimenting this early. I think he just needs to come in, implement his formation first, and grow from there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Des. I think this is an important comment as well. He needs to go in there and put down his authority, doesn't he? He needs to go in there so the players know that they can't take the piss, for lack of a better word, doesn't he, Matt? He needs to be the boss, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he needs to make a statement, essentially. I think he needs to go in there and say, look, I'm in charge. It's either you like it. I think I said it on one of the last shows, I think a few weeks ago. He needs to come in and have his own way. And if the players don't buy into it, then obviously decisions then to be made. I think the players have been getting away with too much for far too long. Managers playing to suit systems to suit certain players. That has to stop. And like Dad said, he just needs to start playing players in the right positions and go from there, because over the years, we've been seeing players playing well out of position, and then fans getting on the back, criticising Casemiro as an example, playing at centre-back. He's not a centre-back for a start. Obviously, it was a fill-in for injuries, but people need to just see him in the right positions and then judge them properly from there. But yeah, he just needs to get to the basics, play him in the right position, and just build from there and see how it goes, really.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've seen all the pictures coming out, haven't we, from training? Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, Lenny Yoro, Malacia. Everyone is suddenly fit. Now, is it me being really cynical that now everyone's fit? They all, now Amorim's in, they all want to play, they're all fit. Or have I read a little bit too much into that, Ben? Do you think, is it just a nice coincidence that they're all fit now?
I think it is a little bit of a coincidence, but in terms of the energy they bring to the game and they bring into the training, you can see there's definitely an excitement from the Instagram posts, and also just watching the videos as well. There's kind of an extra spring in the step, which you're going to expect with a new manager coming in. They're going to want to impress that manager and get in the team. But yeah, in terms of the injuries, I think, like you say, without being cynical, it's just coincidence. Yoro, we were expecting back at this time. Luke Shaw's probably the only one you look at and think, I always question his injuries and the amount he's out with. So, yeah, but I think it's just timing.
What do you think about that, Daz? I know we spoke a little bit about it. What do you think about it?
I think it's a coincidence. I think in some cases, it's a coincidence. I think the timeline of how long Milicia was going to be out for has been quite transparent. We knew how long Lenny Yoro was going to be out pretty much at the start of the season. But then, if these players are not up for playing for the manager, we actually mentioned this earlier, in the month that some players just need to feel motivated and inspired by the manager. And if they're not feeling motivated and inspired, they're not going to feel motivated and inspired to get him back in that team as fast as possible. And that could just reduce their recovery time by 10%. But then you've got this new manager in that wants to play exciting football. And for example, Luke Shaw might think of this, and he might think, I don't want to be a left back, I want to be a left wing back. This is, the position I'm built for. I want to get back in here before this rumoured left wing back's coming in, because it's my own position. Again, with some of the others. So I think it does look coincidental. It does. And it's, I know rival fans are going to make a mockery of the players that instantly they fit, but we all knew these players was going to come back, towards the end of November anyway. With maybe the only question mark was going to be Milicia, just because his deadline for fitness just keeps getting extended. But it does look as if they're fit. But I think looking at the training videos as well, just because they're training, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are fit. It could just be that the physio team has said that they can play football in training, but they'll potentially still have some restrictions. That could be, a full game. That could be stuff like that. So we're not really sure. It's quite a hard one to judge at the minute. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think the new manager comes in, I think, like you say, just automatically gives everyone a bit of a buzz, doesn't it? Everyone wants to be involved, and maybe they do just kind of perk up a little bit. And I think it's probably me just being cynical, to be fair. But we'll go on to Ipswich. What do we expect from Ipswich, Matt? They've got their first win last time out. They got their first win off their back. He's got on playing some good football, hasn't he, McKenna? He's got a good squad there. What do you expect?
It's a tricky one because you kind of don't know what to expect from both sides. Obviously, Ipswich being at home will obviously be up for the game, especially playing against United as it is. But again, you don't know what you're going to get from us on the flip side under a new manager first game. So it's a tough one to call. You would fancy us obviously to beat him on the day, which I'm hoping we can do because we need to get the Amorim era off to a perfect start, ideally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one to call. I'd fancy us for a comfortable win because it's Ipswich and you'd fancy us to win the game comfortably. But again, I don't want to be too overconfident because then it always backfires. It always does, especially under a new manager, and you never know how they're going to respond to his new tactics. So yeah, for me, it's a tough one to call, but I can't say anything other than a United win. To be honest, I'd be stunned if we didn't win the game.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, how do you think Ipswich will be looking at this? Obviously, United, new manager, potentially a new system. Do you think Ipswich will look at that as a chance to get points off United because it'll be them in essence trying something out that they're not used to playing? I mean, we all remember under Ten Hag his first game. What was it, Brentford? Was it 4-0 when he tried to play his Ten Hag way and all that? How do you think Ipswich will be looking at this game?
I think, with all due respect, we should be beating Ipswich regardless of if Ten Hag, Van Nistelrooy, Ranić, the manager, whoever it was. We should be going there and should be beating them. I think from their perspective, they'll look at it and they'll think there's possibly a bit more of an opportunity with if we move straight into a 3 at the back from a 4 at the back, which we've been playing for the last God knows how many years. You could get the chance of a defender misses a certain tackle or get the angles wrong or something like that. But I think on the whole, quality-wise, we should be far superior to Ipswich. And also, you get that new manager bounce where the players are going to be running about a bit more. That should be enough to get us through this game, undoubtedly.
I hope you're right, buddy. I hope you're right. What about you, Daz? What are you expecting from Ipswich, from the Ipswich side? What do you expect from their sort of game?
I think they'll come at us early. I think they'll want to shock us quite early. I mean, most teams have been wanting to do that this year. I don't see Ipswich being any different. I mean, their top goal scorer's got 6 goals in 11 games, so they can score goals, and we're a team that can concede them. Until he's had a good couple of weeks, maybe till after Christmas, his sort of style is not going to be fully implemented in this team anyway, even if he can make it work with these players. So, it's quite tough because bottom of the league teams, that bottom 6, they always pull up a shot. I mean, they nearly beat Villa, they beat Spurs. Kieran McKenna will know these players inside out, minus the ones that came in the summer. So he'll know how to frustrate Bruno Fernandes because he knows what makes him tick. Maybe he will know how... He'll probably know some of the kinks in the armour, and he's going to exploit us for it, or he's going to try to exploit us. And everybody in this team, if we do go for the 3-4-3, everybody potentially other than the number 9 is going to be playing new football.
Yeah. I agree. So how are we lining up, Matt? What's your first 11? Your Ruben Amorim, what players are you using in your first 11?
It's tough to say. It depends on, obviously, fitness-wise. Like I say, we see all these players back in training. You'd think there is talks that Euro is apparently fully fit. So would you expect maybe him, Martinez and Dillit to be the starting back 3? That's probably our strongest back 3 if, obviously, Euro was fit. I'm guessing probably, depending on Shaw's fitness, would Shaw possibly start as like left wing back and maybe Mazraoui on the right or Dallo on the right? It's a tricky one to say. I think the midfield, I'm hoping Mainoo's back. I think Mainoo will be... I think we'll actually see more out of Mainoo possibly in this new system. I think I'll have a bit more freedom to move. I'll have Casemiro in there. Obviously, Bruno is like an absolute starter. He's not even a question. And then it's more the interesting thing is going to be the front, the attacking areas. Does he go with a Rashford? Does he even like mix up and just chuck Anthony in? Have they been working on something that nobody knows? It's Amorim who knows. I can't imagine it, but you just never know. But yeah, for me, you've got to be looking at the usuals. Maybe Højlund, Rashford, Garnacho, maybe, or I'd even probably start Ahmad, to be honest. Ahmad's been playing really well, and I think he's another one that'll suit Amorim's system down to a T. I'm hoping a hard worker. He'll track back, he'll run forward, he does everything that you need, really. So yeah, I don't think the team will be much different to what it has been. Maybe the introduction of Shaw and Euro depending on fitness, but I don't think it'll be much too dissimilar to what the starting 11's been under Van Nistelrooy. Obviously, just in a slightly different system.
Yeah. What about you, Ben? I mean, does Ahmad get in? Because he's probably the star man, wasn't he, in Ruud's little era? How would you do it?
Yeah, I think I've always said that I like Ahmad and I like what he brings to the team. So I think Amorim will like him as well in that kind. He'll probably play that right hand side behind the striker. I don't know what you call the position, but he'll play in that role. And I think he's probably out of all of the attackers, he's probably the one that is most relieved that Ten Hag's gone and that Amorim's coming, because that position just suits exactly what he wants to do. Whereas if you look at Rashford, you look at Garnacho, you look at even Højlund, they might be thinking, actually, this system's not 100% what I need to get the best out of me. Even Bruno Fernandes, but I think Bruno's that good that he can play wherever required. I think we might see Mason Mount because he was in the first training session, and I think Amorim's going to chuck a couple of players in that he's had the most time with. So I think that might be, say, Mason Mount. And there was a suggestion that Martinez might not be fit as well, which might mean you bring Luke Shaw into that left side centre half position, which is comfortable. He's done that before. He can play there. So I think we might see a couple of changes, but nothing drastic.
How about you, Daz? Do you think he'll throw any sort of curveballs in? Do you think he'll use predominantly the lads that have been training?
I think defensively, like Matt says, I think it's going to look very familiar, other than the fact that there's going to be an extra centre-back in there. I think that'll be Johnny Evans. I think he'll go with Dilly, Lisandro Martinez and Johnny Evans. I don't think that Lenny Euro, even if he is fit, I think he might ease him back in just because it'll be physio rules. Same if Luke Shaw was there, I think it'd be physio rules. Same with Militia. So I think it'll be Johnny Evans, Martinez in the middle. I've got Mazraoui and Delo as the wing backs. However way he wants to switch him, just because it's familiar and just because nothing's changed. We know Luke Shaw's not going to be there. Militia might not be quite ready. So, yeah, and I don't think he's ready to put a winger in that position just yet. Maybe that could evolve later down the line, but I don't think. I've got Ugarte and Maino in midfield. I think one of the big things that I've learned about his system in the last couple of weeks is they work really hard, especially in midfield. And I just don't think Casemiro has the legs to work at the work rate that you'd expect that midfield to work in. So I think, and he knows Ugarte quite well, and he's quite a work engine as well. Maino's obviously going to be the player that I think he'll build his midfield around long term. I think he'll go for two attacking midfielders in Bruno and Mason Mount. I think Mason Mount's back. I think the data, I'm never a big fan of when Ten Hag kept referring to the data and the data doesn't back up the results. But I do think if we look back at the beginning of the season, Mason Mount's press was absolutely phenomenal. I think we're again looking back to the style of Amorim, pressing and high work rate. I don't think anyone would beat Mason Mount in them two areas in the whole team. And I think they're the two big things in his system. So I think Mason Mount will just fry. I think he'll go for Rashford up top. I was hoping that he would go straight in with Højlund and literally get rid of his wingers from the start and then see if you can integrate them into the team at different positions. But I think when you look at the characteristics of what he wants his centre forward to be, fast, good finish. Marcus Rashford is fast. He does have a good finish. And he's got to find a way of getting him in that team for me. I mean, if you're not going to sell him, you've got to put him in the team. And I think he is a better forward than Xerxes and Højlund. Not to say that's not going to be the case in 18, 24 months' time, but I do think Rashford is ahead of both of them right now.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with what you're saying about Mason Mount. I think he will suit the Amorim style perfectly. Where do we go with the captain, Matt? Do you think he'll stick with Bruno as the captain, or do you think he'll give it on to someone else? I've not actually heard anything.
Yeah, there's nothing been mentioned. I can't imagine him changing captain. At least maybe not this season. I think he'll just keep things as they are. But to be honest, moving forward, it wouldn't surprise me if he keeps Bruno as captain. Unless he brings somebody in that he knows that might be suit us better to be a captain. I don't know. If you look at United's squad, you can't really pinpoint anyone that would be an amazing captain if you look beyond Bruno. So I can't, short term at the very least, I can't see him moving away from Bruno, at least for the rest of this season. Whether that changes next season, the season after, it's quite possible. But yeah, for me, I think I'd just stick with things as they are. Just try not upset the apple cart too much. But there's no reason to change the captain this season, to be honest. I don't see it'll make a massive difference.
Do you two agree? Do you two think Bruno will stay?
Yeah. I think it's too much. It'd cause too much trouble if he came in and it was just like, actually, my Portuguese captain, I'm going to take that armband. Because, like Matt said, there's not a standout. There's not a Roy Keane in this team where you're looking at someone and going, he's definitely the captain. I think probably the person who I would say would be the next captain is either Martinez or De Ligt. Their leadership. I think Martinez is maybe a bit too loose to be a captain. But yeah, I don't see him changing Bruno until Bruno's out of the side. Yeah.
What about you, Daz?
No, I can't see him changing his captain. Not now. But one of the things I have predicted, and I've actually wrote it down on a picture in my phone and time-stamped it, so I can come back here later in the summer and say I had this right all along. But I'll put it out there. I think Bruno goes in the summer. And I think he forces the move. And I think Bruno forces the move. I think there was touch and go with potentially, does he go, does he stay in the summer? I think Man United haven't, not to say they won't, but, from last summer, Man United haven't considerably got themselves challenging for trophies. Whether we like it or not, Bruno Fernandes is such a productive footballer and he should be winning all of the trophies. And I think he gets into most teams in the world and I think he knows that. I think that would suit Amorim, not losing Bruno, but being able to reposition that captaincy without ruffling any feathers too much. And I think that, you said there's not an obvious captain in the team. I think there is. I think it's Matthias de Ligt. You look at his history, he's been a leader from, what was he, 16, 17, when he was first given the captaincy. And even when you look at him in this Man United team and you look at his body language, he wants to work with players either side of him. And I think in an ideal world, I'd love to have given it to Sandro Martinez, but like Ben mentioned, I think he's just a little bit too
hot-headed.
I don't know. He's always a tackle away from a red card, isn't he? But then we gave it to Vidic, and it wasn't a bad thing, was it? Vidic was very similar in terms of the way, the aggression. If anything, it made Vidic a little bit more laid back. He wasn't as aggressive as maybe, it wasn't as reckless as he was in previous seasons. Maybe that was a maturity in his game. But I think Bruno leaves in the summer, and I think this is where Garnacho might fit in. Long term, I think Garnacho would then sit in that role, and his attacking midfielder that Bruno's solely been playing would be Mason Mount.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want Bruno to leave there, but I agree with what you're saying about De Ligt. We normally have a hot-headed captain, don't we? Bruno, he's not exactly level-headed, I don't think. Rooney, Keane, Vidic. I love the hot-headed captains. They get proper stuck in, don't they?
I think that's the mistake we make as a Man United fan base, because we've had so many big captains, from Steve Bruce to Roy Keane to Vidic, that's the benchmark for us of what a captain should be. Not actually realising that captains like that, although they have come every day for United over Ferguson period, in general, captains like that don't come every day. Arsenal still haven't replaced Tony Adams, what he gave that team as a captain. So, I think we're not going to get that. And the chances of getting that, maybe somebody develops into that, but, I think it's okay not to have that still have a good level of leadership and captaincy.
Yeah, like I say, I think you're right about De Ligt. He's only been with us a few months, but he looks like he's been there a long time, doesn't he? He looks like one of the senior members of the squad. I think he's spot on there. Score predictions. We'll come to you, Ben. How are we going to get on Sunday?
I did a video the other day and I actually missed the Ipswich game off it. So I just completely forgot we were playing them. So I went quite bold in that video saying that we were going to win every game out of the next 6.
Say
so
that.
I'll go for 3-1. Axel Twanzebe to score against us.
Who's scoring the goals?
Amad Diallo and 2 for Bruno. Why not?
Yeah, I love that. Matt, what you got prediction wise?
Yeah, I am feeling fairly optimistic. Hopefully I'm proved right come weekend. My prediction is probably I'm going to go 3-0.
Okay.
I think we'll. I fancy us for a clean sheet for once. Don't ask me why. I know it doesn't happen very often with United, but I've just got a hot, funny feeling this weekend. But yeah, for me, scorers. I think Rashford will start up top, and I think he will score. I'm almost surprised to see Amad maybe nick one, and possibly Bruno.
Yeah,
it's
love
hard to
that.
predict. The goal scorers are always hard to predict, to be fair, because you never know what you're going to get from every player, game by game, so you just never know. Anyone could pop up. But yeah, for me, I'm going to go 3-0. I'm going to be confident.
Yeah. I think it'd be good, really good for Rashford as well if he could get an early goal under Amorim. I think that'd be very good. Daz, score and scorers.
I'm gonna say 3-1 United. I think that striker for Ipswich, Delapizet, I think he'll probably get one. I think we are vulnerable. We do always seem like we're capable of conceding. And Ipswich will obviously be up for it. But I think I'm looking at the Southampton game, the Leicester game that we've had this year, looking at where Ipswich are in a similar position and how we've got a little bit more confidence post Eric Ten Hag. And I think the confidence with Amorim will have gone up a little bit more over Rude. I think it will just all fit into place. And I think everyone would take a 3-1 win. I mean, nothing better than a clean sheet, but as in his first game, I think everyone would take 3-1. I'd definitely take 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's Ten Hag or not, like Ben said earlier, we should have more than enough to beat Ipswich. They will give us chances, and if we put them chances away, it should be quite comfortable. Is the performance and what we see from the team more important than the result on Sunday, Ben? Do we need to see something, or is it far too early? Like if it's a disaster class and we get done 4-0, are we a bit like,
I think ultimately Amorim's just going to want points on the board. But from a fan's perspective, we're probably going to want to see just a few glimpses, not necessarily a consistent 90 minutes where we're dominating them and creating loads of chances. I think if we just see flashes of one of the wing backs getting in behind and pulling it back, one of the 10s getting on the ball and having a shot that goes close or something like that, I think if we just see glimpses of what we can expect, we can go into the next few games and say, yeah, we can actually see what we're building on here.
Yeah. Are you the same, Matt? Is it all about the result? I was a little bit similar when Ten Hag was in charge and he was starting to get the pressure was on top of him. I was like, just give me something to get behind. I don't really care too much about the result. Just give me something in the performance.
Yeah.
Are we the other way around now? Do we want the result more so than the performance?
I think looking at where we are in the league, I think the results have to be the most important thing at the moment, just to try and get ourselves back up that table. I think that's probably what Amorim will be looking for. I think he said in his interview when he was asked what we'll see in the first few games, you'll just see an idea. He said you may or may not like it, which tells me I think he's going to want to try and implement something in the team to see how they respond. But at the same time, making sure they are getting the results and getting the points on the board at the same time. It's not going to be a finished article this season. I wouldn't expect to see a miraculous turnover between now and the end of the season. It's not going to be, until he gets his own mould, his own stamp on the team himself. You can't really judge it fully. But yeah, for me, I think you've got to be looking at the results more than the performance. But I think, like Ben said, as a fan perspective, you do want to start seeing something. Because under Ten Hag, no one had a clue what direction they were wanting to go in. But I think under Amorim, I think he will drill that into the players, and we'll start seeing odd bits here and there of what he's trying to introduce into the team, definitely.
Yeah. Are you the same as that, Daz? I know Amorim said in one of his interviews that you'll win time, like you'll win fans' patience, and is that kind of where you are? That we would need the results to get back up the league, or do you want to see the performance? I know it's early days.
I think as his first game, it's a must-win. Not just because Man United's in a position, because it's a must-win. It's just if Man United was to go out and get beat 2-0, regardless of how that system looked or how it might look positive, the media and the rival fans are going to have a fan bet. We're going to have a complete party over it. Oh, it's Ten Hag all over again. We already know what'll happen the minute we lose a game under him, and we will lose a game under him just because it's going to be new.
Yeah.
But and the fact with it being Ipswich that are in the bottom 4 at the table, so I think it's a must win. But if we was to win that game 1-0, for example, and the goal was to be very similar to what we saw Sporting do against Man City, where they break at the back line quite early and they storm 30 yards and bury the goal 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. That's a little bit of familiarisation to his system. If we was to see stuff like when we're being overrun in midfield, our backline looks like a 5, similar to what Sporting looked like in the first 20 minutes against Man City. But then on the counter, we look like we've got 5 in the final third. I think if we see little things like that in that game, and it hasn't got to be every time we're on a defence or every time we go forward, just a little bit, I think that'll be enough for the fans to say, a little bit of a style, a little bit of a system, the formation starting to take shape. So I think we need. I know it's very naive to say we need to see a style of play from day one, but I think we need to see little bits of it. Little bits that this is why we brought him in. And a 3-4-3 is great, especially if he does choose to go for it, because that was the one thing that I think a lot of United fans was intrigued to see.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree in the respect that we need to get the win, I think, just to get that monkey off his back sort of thing. Because as you say, if we don't win the first one, then we don't win the second one. It will just go down, a certain way, won't it? But we've got to be patient. But like you say, if we can see the 5, if we can see the structure of the team, I'm all behind that. So that's the Ipswich game pretty much done. So I want to kind of touch on sort of news and rumours and stuff now. One of the stories that's come out has said that he's going to be working with a very small budget in January. What do you make of that, Ben? Does he need more of a budget in January, or is it to be expected?
No, I think ultimately, again, I've done a video looking at the actual squad and saying keep or sell. It's not as bad as we think. I think you look at the performances and you'll think that this is the worst squad United have had. This is actually a better squad than what Erik ten Hag inherited. So ultimately, he does have players there that can fulfill a system and get us to 4th place in the league. There's no arguments that this squad is good enough for that. It's a case of identifying the weaknesses and not necessarily rushing in and buying whoever's on the market. Maybe scouting in January and thinking, is there anyone out there? It's going to be that left back spot, I think, is the main area we're looking at. Is there anyone we can go and get in January that tangibly improves the squad and is also going to be in the squad for the next 5-10 years? If there's not, wait until the summer and use Malacia and Shaw. I think that's how we're going to be looking at it for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Matt? Do you think he needs to be backed a little bit more in January, or do you think, like Ben says, it is a very much like, let's have a look first and then we'll get to that?
Yeah, I see. January is one of the transfer windows you don't often see a lot of business anyway, especially from United. They've never been, maybe the odd player here and there leaving or the odd player coming in. I can't see him making many change. I think he'll use the rest of the season now to see what he can get out of the current bunch of players, and then at least he can assess things then going into the summer. But yeah, for me, I don't see many changes, even if they had the money. I don't see much happening in January anyway, to be quite honest.
Yeah. What about you, Daz? I mean, you touched on it a little bit earlier about the left-back situation, and there's a few stories coming out about Davis and Kirkes and a few names being thrown out there. Do you see that happening in January, or do you see that as a more of a summer thing?
Yeah, I think we'll go to the market for a left-back regardless to whether we've got 2 fit ones at the club come January. I think you've got to be self-aware to know that even if Luke Shaw stayed fit for the rest of the season, you know he's going to get injured next year. You just know he is. Militia, we've not seen him, so we don't even relatively know whether he could be that player. All we know is he was brought in to be the backup to Luke Shaw. So potentially he's going to be the backup to Luke Shaw's replacement, and I'd be happy with that. In terms of the budget, I mean, if rumours are true, Alvaro Fernandez is on the market at a buyback release clause, 15 million, which is considerably nothing for a left back. He seems to be ripping it up in Benfica. Obviously, Amorim will have seen that more than obviously everyone else because it was the league he's just come from. So, yeah, I think it's looking at the squad. I think first thing I'd say to anyone that says we need to go to the market is, the first question I'd say is, what does United need? Do we need any centre-backs? Not really, because if you look at the long term, I'm happy with Euro, Martinez and De Ligt as my 3 centre-backs. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
You look at the wing-back positions in Delo and Mazraoui on the right. I'm really happy with that. They offer a little bit different. It's only that left-back position, you know, from a defensive point of view, where you say, and it's nothing to do with the quality that we've got there. Luke Shaw very much has the quality, and I think he's got the style of play that we need. We just can't get 38 games a year out of him, and that is ultimately the issue. So you look at midfield as well. I think as of right now, the long-term, I'd like to think the long-term plan would be Mainu and Ugarte, but right now we do have Casemiro that seems to have bounced back a little bit. We do have Eriksen that seems to be having the best season for that he's had in 5-6 years. You know, there is other players that are in there. In terms of going forward, he's got 3 centre forwards in Xerxes, Højlund, and we know Rashford can play there. He's got 2 definite attacking midfielders, but again, could Mainu play up there? We don't know. Could he be developed to play in one of them positions when needed? We don't know. You've got Diallo that we all know we want to keep in this team. We need to find a place for him, and I'd like him to either be as the centre forward or attacking midfielder, just because I think he's got all of the characteristics. But yeah, we don't need anyone. We need a left back that can play relatively 9 out of 10 games for the rest of the season. So for me, to be here that we've only got a small budget, I'm happy with that, because ultimately it means we're going to go for the one position that we should have resolved in the summer. And we've actually heard rumours, haven't we, today from Fabrizio Romano that it is a priority position. So yeah, I expect Alvaro Fernandez to come in, to be fair.
Obviously, one of the names, Ben, one of the names that's been touted in the media, I don't know if it is because it's a little bit of a glamorised name and he's linked to Madrid, he's linked to Bayern. So obviously they throw United in there to put the story out a little bit. He's obviously Davis. Do we want that sort of player? Is it going to cost a lot of money? Does that say where we are? I mean, because I know another story that's come out today is Angel Gomez. Are we looking for free transfers because we're a bit skint, really? Or do we genuinely like these players? What do you think?
I think ultimately, if Davis wasn't out of contract, he's a 70 million pound player, isn't he? 24-year-old. He suits the system, and generally, I think is quite good fitness-wise, or certainly better than what Luke Shaw is. So I've got no issues with that. I think the issue would come if we're dipping into the market for players that are there and available but don't necessarily fit. If we were going for a 32-year-old left back, I'd be a little bit concerned. Or if we were going for whatever it might be, like another Casemiro type signing, I think that's where the issues would come. But if you can go and get Davis, he's arguably the best player in the world in that position, go and do it.
Yeah, I mean, does that say more about what we've got now, do you think, Matt, that we need that left side? Or as Daz says, is it because Luke Shaw's made a Weetabix and he's never fit and, you know, you're only getting like half hour a year out of him or whatever? Or does Davis really fit like what we need? I mean, he's very good going forward, isn't he? Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's one of them. I think left back has to be a priority. I think everyone knows that. I think the issue is it's the longevity of the players in that position. Is getting sometimes you can't even get half a season of games out of them half the time. which obviously the amount of competitions you're in, you've not got a chance. And then that's when you have to start resorting to playing players out of position. And that's when things start going wrong. So, yeah, it wouldn't shock me to see him go out and get an Alphonso Davies if he's out of contract. It wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, if that's one that Amorim thinks can come in, slot in, and work perfectly in the system, absolutely, why not? But I don't think they'll go out and just get anyone for the sake of getting someone. They'll have a couple of players in mind that they want, and they'll go for them players. If they're retainable January, they'll go for it. If it's waiting until the summer, then I'd imagine they'll wait till the summer rather than we can't afford these panic buys like being like a Ben Chilwell in just for the sake of 6 months to the end of the season. We just can't afford to keep doing that anymore. It's either you target the players, you get them now, or you wait till the summer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, something that Amorim's known for is bringing youth through and working with what he's got. He does it with Sporting. He did it with Braga, I think, before that. So I'm hoping he does that a little bit with United. And obviously, a youth player that we used to have, Angel Gomez, is free next summer. And the reports today are saying Amorim's a long-time admirer. You know, he'd be very happy to bring him in. If we were to bring in Angel Gomez, where would he go in that midfield? With us having Mainu, Ugarte, Fernandes, does he just warm the bench or does he get into that midfield?
I'm torn with it. I'm torn because I was one of the few United fans that fell in love with him when he was in the academy. I looked at him and there was, I mean, at the time there was loads of Messi comparisons, you know. And I think as an academy player, he had that flair, that something about him. But it's a tough one because I don't think we've seen enough to say that he gets in that midfield for me. I think when you look at what we've currently got, I mean, we've all said that we'd all like Ugarte and Mainu to be the future of that midfield, build it around them. But at the minute, you have got Ericsson that's playing really, really well. You know, I don't think you'd get a better backup midfielder in the Premier League than Ericsson's been this year. He's been so good. Casemiro on his day is, you know, could potentially be the best player on the pitch or the worst. But no, I think if Angel Gomez come, I think he'd want to start, and I think it could potentially block the move of a Casemiro replacement, a long-term Casemiro replacement, someone that could come in and say to Ugarte and Mainu, that position's mine, and just let them slug for it, you know. And I really want to see that. I just don't think Angel Gomez has got the physicality to come in and do that, especially Ugarte and Casemiro. But yeah, I think it'd be a waste of transfer for me. I know it's potentially free, you know, but it's still got to add the signing fee to that, the wages. What does that look like as a structure? Could we have brought in an Alvaro Fernandes for, you know, the same sort of financial structure? You know, so it's what do we need and what should we be going for? I don't think right now we need a central midfielder. You know, I think there's a couple of other positions that I would much rather cover first.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think he's too small for the Premier League, personally. I think he'd get knocked all over the shop, especially in the middle of the park with some of the big players that the Premier League has. Whether it would be one for the future when Eriksen and Casemiro have sort of jogged on, you know, who knows. But another thing I want to touch on, Rashford going to America. Why is it such a big blooming deal when a player has a personal life, Matt? Why can't they have their own? Like, why can't they have a life? Why does he get so much stick?
I feel like it's just because it's Rashford, and it's not even like a recent thing. It's just been going on for the last 2 or 3 years at least now, and it always seems to be him. But the funny thing was Casemiro, I believe, was also there as well, and he didn't get any criticism. Or I've not seen any criticism. It's just been Rashford. There's no explanation for it. It's just happening all the time, and it's crazy. That's the only word to describe it.
It's mad. I mean, Ben, I saw you. We obviously did videos on TikTok over this one. What's your thoughts on it? I just find it mad that the English media just absolutely hammer this lad, whatever he does. It's got to do him in sort of mentally. It has to have an effect.
Yeah, it ultimately is just an easy target, isn't it? And I think the media know that Manchester United plus Rashford is arguably the most clicks they're ever going to get because they can't write a decent article about anything else. In terms of players going out and having personal lives, some of United's best ever players were absolute hooligans off the pitch. We don't have to name them. We know who they are. Ultimately, if you're winning games, scoring goals, winning competitions, I have no issues. Go out and do what you want. My issue comes where Rashford, when he went to Belfast last time, he actually missed training, I think, the day after. That's where fans are going to look at it and say, actually, no, you need to pack this in. But going to watch a basketball game and training whilst he's over there, no issues at all.
Yeah. I mean, we'll flip it around. With there being a new manager coming in, should Rashford on those days off be at Carrington?
No,
should he be putting the work in?
No, I think he's entitled to have time off. I mean, we all work. I mean, we get 28 days, and that, you know, we're going past the national average. You get 28 days holiday a year, you know, but we get 28 days holiday a year and we take it how we want. Our employees don't dictate that you can't go. Unless you're on call, you can't go there, you can't go here. I'm happy for all these trolls to criticise Marcus Rashford to go into America during his scheduled time off that the club gave him, during uncertainty of a manager and during poor form, poor season, worst start ever. But you've also got to give him the credit during the last international break when his own manager went home. He stayed he stayed at Carrington and he trained during his scheduled time off. Marcus Rashford could have easily said, my contract, I'm going to New York for a few days. My manager's disappeared for a few weeks, so why can't I? I've actually done some research. The last 3 scheduled breaks that the players have had, Marcus Rashford's actually stayed at the club and trained. No doubt he'll have had a couple of days off within Manchester or London or wherever he might have floated to. But the last incident was during his scheduled time off where he had the nightclub incident. You know, but I've got no issues. I mean, it was scheduled time off. Players, there was away on international break. The new manager wasn't even here. Ruben van Nistelrooy had already gone. It was all the coaches had been relieved of duty. What do you want him to do? I mean, at the end of the day, he'll have had a nutrition plan and a training plan. So long as he's keeping up with them wherever he is in the world, I've got no issues with that. And we did see videos of him training during his time in America. So I've got no issues with that. So long as he wasn't flying back 3 days before an Ipswich break, you know. I've got no, you know, if his coach says he's got to be back on Monday, so long as he's back on Monday, I've got no problem with that. End of the day, he's got a life, he's entitled to do it. But this is not new with United. I mean, Lee Sharp back in the day was saying people wanted to criticise him for going out on parties. Even back to George Best's days, maybe he did take it a bit too far. But Paul Pogba, it's Man United, so people want to point fingers when things are going wrong, but what they're not willing to do is point fingers when actually they're becoming a standout. And him staying during the last international break, for me, especially when his manager went, should have been given loads of credit by the media for that, but no one mentions that.
Like you say, I mean, it would have been okay by the club. The last international break, Ten Hag went to Ibiza, didn't he, or something? I mean, he went partying to Ibiza. The thing that annoys me is, like, you see Grealish in the papers. He's there, like, getting proper tanked up every time you see him having a day off. Grealish, he's got a beer in his hand, hasn't he? I mean, you know, fair play. We all like a beer and all that. But I mean, you know, why can't Rashford have a bit of private time as well? Does my head in.
The thing is, like you say about Grealish, he's kind of idolised for that, similar to like what Gascoigne was, where he's going out, he's like a typical stereotypical English bloke, but that's kind of idolised. Whereas Rashford, you never question the fact that he's going to have a 6-pack. He's never going to be fit in to play. That's not what we ever criticise him for. It's just general. I mean,
if you remember when City was celebrating the treble, everyone was like lauding the fact that Grealish can like down a pint in 10 seconds or something. I mean, Rashford's there like feeding people's kids, and he's getting absolutely done in the newspapers. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. Sorry, Dad. Sorry.
And the thing is, as well, you talk about the City title celebrations. Maybe what the City fans have said is true. we won the cup because they was out on the piss all week, you know. And if that might well be the truth, maybe they was hungover and that's why Man United beat them. But the reality is, where was the criticism for that? Where was Jack Grealish? Because I'm not being funny. Based on what I've seen, I'd much rather have an academy prospect that's underperforming over Grealish that was £100 million that's underperforming. And the production levels of either of them are not good. They're not up to standard. So, but where's Grealish's criticism? Where is his exile from the England squad?
Yeah, they're very similar, really. When you, as you say, when you look at the output, the goals, assists, they're very similar. I hate that thing that we won the FA Cup because they were drunk. Pep's meant to be like the greatest manager ever, and he's allowed that Man City team to get drunk and have a day off in the cup final. We were just better. That was all that was. We were just better. So another story that's been doing the rounds this week. Me and Daz have had a little bit of to and fro in on this one. Paul Pogba. So I'm going to throw it to Daz here. So you tell us why Pogba should come back, Daz.
I'm not saying he should come back, but what I'm saying is I'm open to the idea because he's free. If you can get, I'm not saying let's give him 500k a week. If you've got a budget and he's willing to sign for that budget, and whether that be 180 a week, you know, I don't know. If you can cross the, you know, the T's and dot the I's and the club and the player are happy, I'm happy with that. I think I've done some research on this, and there's a lot of speculation to why he left in the first place. I actually watched an interview this week with Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson has openly come out and said that he left due to contract issues. He wanted to play more frequently, and Alex Ferguson couldn't guarantee him that. And it currently, in that particular time, of not being able to play him but needing to give him minutes, the club's dynamics wasn't in a position to have Pogba in that team. But Alex Ferguson said, had he been patient, he'd have been happy to have kept him around the team. So that speaks volumes. It wasn't as if Alex Ferguson saw this bad attitude in him. I actually did some more research. Pogba's always been, I call him a social media player. He's always been one of them that likes to have a dance and a joke. I think we've got to accept that being a modern day society with social media. But I can't find one negative link of him at Juventus. Not one incident where he was considered an egomaniac that he's been branded. He's come back to Manchester United, and from day one, there was loads of criticism because Man United sold him, brought him back, and that, you know what I mean? That was not his fault. That's just bad business by the club. But that wasn't Paul Pogba. And then you had the Graham Souness sort of media witch hunt on him, which obviously wasn't fair. And Paul Pogba mentioned something in a recent interview, and I'm not sure if you guys have seen it. Manchester United at this particular time had big leaders in that dressing room. If we'd really lost the game and Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard are dancing in that dressing room, why didn't Wayne Rooney stop them? Being the leader and club captain at the time, the chances is the media have probably just blown it out of proportion because they know he likes to dance. Similar incident with the Jose Mourinho stuff. It was probably a social media manager that made that post. Ill-timed 100%. And again, they had a bit of an argument, and it didn't look aggressive on the training ground. It was just an exchange of words. And again, the media blew it out of proportion. I'm sick and tired of Manchester United fans blaming players and branding them toxic because of poor management by the football club. I think Paul Pogba was poorly managed by the football club, and it created a toxic player, not the other way around. And I think the only question mark for me and Paul Pogba would be the recent drug testing. You know, what happened? You know, Man United would need some transparency on, did he take drugs and try and get away with it? Was it just poor coaching at Juventus that, you know, asked him to do it? I don't know, but the club would need to. But I'd take him back. I mean, he's a phenomenal footballer, and as much as I like Kobe Mainoo, Paul Pogba would open our midfield up dramatically.
Okay, Ben, do you have an opinion on Pogba and Pogba too, possibly?
I always argue with my my mates about Pogba because a lot of them kind of hate what he did, what he kind of represented at United at the time. But I just cannot get over the fact how talented he was and is. Undeniably, beyond the obvious midfielders of like Scholes, Keane, he's the most talented footballer I've seen at Manchester United. And I don't think, ultimately, if you nail football down to one thing, it's talent, isn't it? And we always question, did he apply himself to these situations? But you look at, I think it was his second season where Zlatan was in the team. And Pogba must have created about 100 chances that season. It was off the scale how many chances he created, and Zlatan kept blazing it at the keeper or whatever he did. And we've never seen a player kind of being able to replicate that. And I think if we could get him back, get the mentality right, get him in the squad without him being relied on as you're the man that's going to take us back to the top. If he came in and he dovetailed in certain games and we said to him, when we play City, Liverpool, Arsenal, you're not coming on the pitch at all. If he came in and accepted that, fair enough. Because against Ipswich, if Paul Pogba was in the team, I'm putting us down for a 5-0 win.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Matt, talk to me about Pogba.
Yeah, it's obviously a lot of people that I know, obviously, whether it be friends, family-wise, a lot of people are obviously against the idea, which you can understand from both points of view. You can only go off what you see, obviously, in the media and what's talked about. But for me, I actually wouldn't be totally against the idea of him coming back. I think if they got him on the right deal, and obviously Amorim came in and thought he'd actually work and actually be beneficial for the way I want to play, and he came in and actually just had him as a player and none of the dramatics with the media and this and that. Came in, played his football. I'd be absolutely all for it. I wouldn't see the issue. And I think with the structure of the club now, I don't think it'd be a complete circus like it was previous years under all previous management and the way the club was run. And I agree with Daz. I think he was poorly coached. If you look at the managers that he was under, or how many different managers he was under, he went from Ferguson when he was younger in the academy and left the club, which again was through no fault of his own. Obviously, then he came back. But if you look at the other clubs he's been at, there's never been any issues, like off the field issues. It's always when he's at United. And as we discussed with Rashford, everything just gets magnified, no matter who the player is. So for me, I think if they got him on the right deal and the club and Amorim thought it was the right thing to do, I'd be all for it, 100%.
See, I thought I'd have a bit more back in here. I'm very much no. I thought at least one of you would be on my side on this one. I just don't think he'd be the sort of player that we'd need at the moment. Don't think he's what Amorim would want. His attitude is just wrong, whether he's poorly managed or not. I think there has to be. I do agree that the management was a big issue, and it was all blown out. But I do think sometimes there's an accountability. He's kind of come in as our big talisman, and he needed to take a little bit more accountability, I think, for the performances he put out there. But I don't think it would happen anyway, to be honest.
No, I don't.
I think that's why we're not part of Ineos' team, because fan sentiment kind of overtakes it, doesn't it? And we're like, back. In reality, Ineos, there's a 1% chance that they do it.
I think, no, it's important to remember that when we talk about bad attitude and circus, he played in that United squad early in his career. Granted, he didn't really get any senior performances, but it was still under Alex Ferguson, and Alex Ferguson did oversee everything all the way into the academy. There was nothing surrounding a poor attitude, anything like that. He went to Juventus, and if anything, this is an amazing player, winning World Cups for France. Again, nothing came out. It was only at United, even when he went back to Juventus, drug charges aside, there was still nothing about this is a bad attitude player, nothing. The media just sort of went quiet with him. So I think the first question would be, why did it happen at Man United and nowhere else? Because if it was a bad attitude player like Mario Balotelli, for example, drama tends to follow you. But that hasn't happened with Paul Pogba. The drama was just at Man United. It's also very mindful to remember that the structure at Man United with Ed Woodward and then the manager, nothing in between, wasn't good to resolve any issues. Jose Mourinho. Some managers always clash with players as well. I mean, David Beckham, Alex Ferguson being a perfect example. And sometimes certain players and certain managers just can't work together. I think that was a little bit of the case with Mourinho and Pogba. I just think it was just a clash and two personalities couldn't work together. Why? Because I think Pogba felt like Mourinho was picking on him and used him as a scapegoat when things wasn't going right for United. Just sort of saying, oh, you've been dancing, this is all your fault, you know. But I think if he did come back, and like we all said, if the deal was right and the structure was right, and Amorim makes the decision that I can coach this player and this player's going to listen to me, I think it'll be so big, and he wouldn't be the main man in the team anymore. That's something that was mentioned. I mean, for me, that man's Bruno Fernandes now. Bruno Fernandes is the man that opens everything up for United. We do have bigger names in that dressing room. He's not the number one name there anymore, and I think that would help considerably.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not his attitude as a man. I mean, every time you hear him talk, he's very well spoken, and you know, if he likes to have a bit of a jig, then that's fine. For me, it's just he was. I just found him very lazy as a player. I thought when things weren't going well, I thought his head dropped far too quickly. I mean, that's something that you could throw at players now, like last season and like the start of this season. Heads have dropped far too quickly, and I think with the position that United are in now, I think we just need people that want to dig in and want to do the hard yards. And I don't think Pogba would be like that. But as you say, Daz, if Amorim went to Ineos and said, "I actually want Paul Pogba back," then you back it. And if he thinks he could coach him, but for me, I'd rather Kobe Mainoo in the middle of our park than Paul Pogba. But that is just me. I mean, that's just my opinion. To end it, we're going to go to the dark side. I want to get your thoughts on Pep Guardiola signing a new 2-year deal. I think it's broke like tonight that he signed a 2-year deal. Do we read more into that? And it's actually got a clause that the contract can't be broke if they get relegated. That's actually true. I don't know where that's come from. Matt, what do you make of that? Does he know that they're not getting done for these 115 charges or what?
I hope not. I hope that's not the case. I'm hoping they're just setting him up. The fact that he's not got a break clause in his contract. If they get it, I'm just hoping it's a setup. That'd be the funniest thing ever. But no, yeah, I'm hoping that's not the case, and I'm hoping I'll stick by it. I'd be stunned if none of them 115 charges stick. I just don't see how you can wipe out 115 charges and as though nothing's happened. It just astonished me. But yeah, I've not really got an opinion. I'm not surprised that he signed a new contract. I'm just hoping in a few months' time he's living to regret it with the arrival of Amorim.
Fingers crossed. What about you, Ben? Was it more hope that we were going to get rid of him, or did you always think he was going to sign?
Yeah, I think he's always one of these that every season he says, not necessarily that he says it, there just seems to be stories come out that suggesting he's going to leave. I'm not against it because ultimately I think if United are ever going to win the league again, there's going to be a team alongside us that is good. Whether it's a Pep Guardiola or whoever the next Guardiola is, you have to go and beat that team anyway. So I'm not overly concerned. I don't want United to be winning the league full of Ipswiches and Leicesters with all respect to them clubs.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, if Pep goes, there's going to be another one, and it ain't going to be Slot, but there'll be someone else. Daz, what do you think? Does he know the 115 is going away, or is it just?
Well, I had a conversation with a friend today that works with the CPS, and I know a criminal in courts are different, but he said something to me that was quite enlightening. He turned around and goes, as a CPS, he goes, sometimes we'll go to trial and you will have a feeling the direction that trial's going to go in once everything's been heard. So potentially, maybe he could be getting misled. He could be getting misled by the own people at the club by saying the trial's finished, it's looking very positive, it's likely we're going to win it, and Pep Guardiola signed a new contract on the back of that, to maybe find out in a couple of months that actually it didn't go as well as that sold him, and he's ended up with a club that's getting relegated or whatever. Or it could be that he is so passionate about that football club that he wants to show his solidarity to say, it doesn't matter, I'm staying. The outcome. I mean, I'm in two minds about them wanting to get it done. Now, look, I'm a firm believer if they broke the rules, you need to be punished. Same as if it was when we got done earlier in the season for a few breaches ourselves. We got a big fine. It wasn't ideal, and I think it stung even more that they changed the rules after they fined us to the point where we actually wouldn't get fined anymore because we technically broke the rules, but they've changed it so we wouldn't. But if Amorim is going to come in and turn Man United round, I would love for him to topple treble winners for in a row, Man City. I would love him for him to beat this Man City, because if Man City was to get relegated, and let's just say Amorim flies like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does, and he wins the league next year, what's the first thing Man City fans are going to say? You only won it because we're in the Championship.
Yeah. There's no Man City. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the points tally would be irrelevant. It'd be irrelevant because all you'd get is, but we beat 97 points, Liverpool. We always do it. So for me, I would love for Amorim to come in and beat Pep Guardiola at his best in what could potentially be one of the Premier League's greatest ever teams. I think that would be an amazing achievement, and that's what I want. But in the other breath, if they have cheated, I do think they should be punished just for the integrity of the Premier League. But yeah, so you sort of never know, do you? You sort of never know how a trial's going to go. End of the day, it's a tribunal, so it's not a judge and a jury. It's just made up, of a tribunal team having heard the evidence.
Yeah, I think it'll be the biggest gutter in football if City walk away from that 1-1-5 with nothing. But like Matt says, I think something will stick, and they'll get points deducted. Something will happen. It has to. If there's any God out there, it has to happen. But I think that's us. I think that's us done for today, boys. I've enjoyed that. Got through Ipswich. Got through a few of the news stories. Yeah. Ben, where can everyone?
Andy, really quick before we move on from the 1-1-5, and I really don't want to defend Man City in this, but one thing.
Oh no, I'm going to mute you here, Daz. I'm going to mute you here.
One thing that I do think is important, though, to the integrity of the Premier League.
Where is that?
And I'm using a big if for this. I am using a big if for this because the Premier League are glorified bullies. They are. They do bully teams into getting what they want. If Man City are genuinely innocent, then they have the right to be innocent. You know what I mean? They have the right to come out and say that everything we won, all of the deals that we did. And we all know that they're probably guilty of something, in there with money and sponsorships. We're not stupid. We're not naive. But if they genuinely are innocent in all of this, that it's important that it is come out that they're innocent, because for the same reasons why they need to be punished if they are guilty, for the integrity of the Premier League, teams need to know that they can't just get accused of obscene things and get fined for them, and they can't be given these obscene punishments, a bit like what we saw with a couple of the points deductions earlier in the season, just so inconsistent and not fair on them teams given the minority of the breaches that they had, you know what I mean? So I think it's important that if they are innocent, that the Premier League clubs do need to be protected going forward.
Well, I think we do need. Sorry, Ben, carry on.
Yeah, I think we all know that City might not be guilty of the charges, but they are guilty of being this sports washing enterprise, and we all know that, and the fans know that. The media know that because they won the treble and literally no one was speaking about it the day after. Essentially, they're irrelevant to the media, and that's if that's a little present for us to take as United fans currently. And if we have to watch them get away with these charges, then so be it. But ultimately, we're going to come again and we'll beat them.
I actually think even if it comes back and they're innocent, I still think us as fans, we all know that something's not right there. Do you know what I mean? We'll know that it's a little bit fishy, but we'll leave it there, and hopefully it will come out. But I think we need to end on the fact that's been you defending Man City and bigging up Liverpool on all 4 United shows. So we need to have something put in a contract here or something. That can't happen. But Ben, tell us where we can find you, buddy.
Yeah, just over on TikTok at the minute. I think that Ben Wilson 217 is the handle, but
Is that your TikTok handle? Is it? I didn't know that.
well, it's Ben Talks Football, but I think you have to search that to actually.
Oh, okay.
find it. So,
I don't know what mine is either, so it's fine. Matt Morgan, where can we find you, buddy?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or All for United Twitter as well. Make sure you follow that more than me.
Yeah, follow all the All for United social media stuff. Love it. What are you on now on Twitter, Matt? Hold on, Daz.
What on All for United?
Yeah, what are you on now?
I think it's just over halfway through 1.2k.
Nice, lovely stuff.
At the minute, yeah, so it's getting there.
Lovely. Daz, go on.
I'm obviously on here defending Man City and Liverpool most weeks.
Not having that.
Picking the competition up. But yeah, TikTok. You know what I'm trying to do? I used to be very much the United agenda, tunnel vision. And I used to get accused of being too biased towards Man United. So what I'm trying to do, especially trying to go...
It does work. I'm just checking the mute button, Daz, for next time. But yeah, it's been a quality show, guys. I've had a good laugh. Now is the fun bit of me trying to end this show without swearing. Yeah, Barry will be back on the weekend, no doubt. Hopefully talking about a United victory against Ipswich, and we will be back next Wednesday, possibly, Daz, something like that.
Yeah,
we'll be back at some point. So yeah, take care of yourselves, guys, and hopefully United win on Sunday. Come on, show it, yes.